Okay, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the 12th episode in our TBD series, and welcome to the second part of our weekly TBD review. So last week we started a review of our previous theme-based discussion sessions, and we covered, I think, about 4 topics. So today we intend to continue, and the review is aimed at revising and revisiting all that we have learned in the past theme-based discussions. Please, can we hear me? If you can hear me, please just signify with the raise of your hand. Good evening, Mr. Bada. Can you hear me, sir? Hello, can we hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, good evening, sir. It's good to have you here with us. Welcome, sir. Yeah, so welcome to, like I said, welcome to our 12th episode of our theme-based discussion series, and the second part of our weekly TBD review. We just started the review last week. We hope to finish it today, but if we can't, maybe we might have another review session, but welcome. So now the review is aimed at revisiting all that we have learned in the past theme-based discussions, get new insights, brainstorm together, ask questions, share ideas, and seek solutions where necessary. So this review is going to be a very practical session, and to take the form of a Q&A session, kind of like a question and answer session somewhat. Yeah, and everyone is invited to join this table. Yeah, so everybody's going to be involved in answering questions, and you can also throw questions back at me or anyone on the call. Yes. All right, so let's get right into business. Please, I would implore us to be as real as possible, and if possible, share real life experiences while answering questions or asking questions. If you have real life scenarios, please, you're welcome. All right, moving on. I will start with if you weren't at the last TBD session, sir, I went through like a highlight of all the topics we have discussed so far. We discussed 10 topics, and we reviewed 3 last week. So we reviewed Dilemma of a Fixed Mindset Educator in the 21st Century Education System, Innovative Teaching Strategies to Making Teaching and Learning More Fun to an Already Distracted Generation of Learners, and Emotional Intelligence. Okay, and we also discussed Social Impact, the Teacher as a Leader in the new Teacher as a Leader series, Global Relevance Through Social Impact. That was anchored by Mrs. Olawole. And today we're moving on to our 4th topic, Bridging the Achievement Gap. Yeah, Bridging the Achievement Gap, uplifting both the high and low achievers. Miss Kemi handled the session in that 4th week, and I want to throw a question to the group generally on that topic, based on that topic. So we want to discuss the question. Anybody that has an answer, and if you have a question that arises from that topic, you can also ask. Thank you. So my question is, the question is like, you have students from affluent and disadvantaged backgrounds, from 2 different backgrounds in your class, and the first category of students have access to better teaching and learning opportunities and experiences, and the disadvantaged background students do not have those opportunities, and they kind of backward in the class, in learning in the classroom. So how do you ensure that you give them equal learning opportunities as their teacher during in the process of your teaching, and how do you help those students that are struggling with English language proficiency? Yes, so that's the question.
Parents already enroll for extra classes and all that. I believe what I can encourage such to do is to make judicious use of the library and get to read. If I'm to use myself as a practical example, growing up, I fell into that category of, I don't have the leisure of any home tutor to go and meet at home and all that. So I was a die-hard lover of, the library, okay? And when I don't have textbook, there was some period I do not have textbook because I could not afford it. My parents could not afford it then. So those that I have, that are my close friends, what I do is I let them know, please, lend me your textbook for to like which one is not on your timetable. Do you get what I'm saying now? So because some of them have their personal timetable. So let's assume they have basic science on their timetable and business studies not on their timetable tomorrow and next. So I borrow the business study and I read it like my life depends on it. So that's the only way I feel like I was able to bridge the gap, stand on the shoulders of others you get now. And I don't have any other teacher at home to explain. So I need to just put my mind to it so that I'll do any form of discussion. So this is one of the practical way I can suggest to. So,
Okay, so let me rephrase the question in this format. When I was a senior secondary school student, I had, in fact, I think in SS3, yes, I also had classmates who couldn't write essays, who couldn't read a comprehension, a passage in a comprehension passage in an English textbook. They couldn't read it with the punctuations like at SS3. So, and there were some too that were in the class and were also very good, very avid readers. They were very good readers. They also wrote superb essays. They were very good. So my English teacher, there was one time he said something to me about him not calling some of us because he knows that we can read and he's trying to help those people that he's calling out those people that don't really know how to read because he wants to help them. So in a class where some people are fast learners, and apart from being fast learners, they already have a compilation of knowledge, and there are people that are coming in that don't even know up to half of what you already know. How do you, and they're in the same class and they are going to write WAEC examination. They're going to write WAEC, they're going to write NECO. How do you teach the two of them? Because you have 45 minutes to teach in the class. So they're going to write WAEC and NECO and they are in the same English class with the teacher and with you. How does the teacher balance teaching the two categories of students without making it look like he's being partial to one side, and without dragging those people that already know something, dragging them back, because it's supposed to continue with the next topic, but the other people that don't really know much about what he's teaching, they will be far behind if it continues. So how does it balance teaching those two categories of students? Did you understand my question, sir?
Yes, I get it.
Oh. Fine, you can go ahead, sir.
Okay, so for the teacher to bridge that, I think it has more to do with extra, how should I put it now? The teacher may have to create time to meet with those other students so as to catch up, because that can really delay teaching and learning, honestly speaking. Yet now we have such scenarios when some students join at the middle of the term, although most schools do not really encourage that, but there are some scenarios like that where a student is coming from one background and all that.
I'm sorry, excuse me, sir. In this scenario I'm mentioning, not all of those underachieving students are new students. There are some of them that have been with the school since JSS 1, 2, 3. And yes, and they still continue like that. They've not really improved. And then SS3 now, and there's a very good teacher that is taking the students. But you observe and notice that there's some students that are far behind, that they didn't really give time to working on their essays, working on their writing, working on their speaking, or anything. And now he's dragging him back. So how does he balance it? Because if it's about new students, maybe it would have been easier to handle. But these are students that have been there already.
Okay, well, two things. One is from the teachers angle. Those set of students, identify them, then create time to engage with them so that they can gradually, if it is a 3 weeks or 4 weeks program that you're going to, extra classes, apart from the normal class, you get now, because you need to have the normal class so that you don't shortchange those that are the normal learners, you get now. Those that are on the normal piece. Then others, you need to just have revisional classes with them so that they can catch up. That's the first part. Then the other part is peer mentoring. You get now. So peer mentoring, whereby you peer those that are average learners. I mean, those that are yet to catch up with those that really have a grasp of it. So you make it look like it is the job, like you give a task, and that group, you assign the normal learner to take charge over the assignments given there. And you're going to let it known that the normal learner is not going to be the one to present. One of those that are, you can't use the word have low average learners and poor learners in class and all that, but you would have it in mind that one of those ones there will be the one to present, that you can call on anyone apart from this person. So that, students learn best when they interact with their age mates sometimes, because they are kind of scared of the teachers. Once in a while, they don't want to appear to the teacher as if they don't have a full grasp of it yet, or maybe they are the one dragging the teacher back. So those are the two suggestions I would like to. I don't know if Mr. Bada.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Bada, did you hear the question when we asked?
Unfortunately, no.
Okay. Should I reiterate? If you have something to say, you can.
Please do.
Okay. So I was asking the question on. I was giving an example, actually, personal example of when I was in secondary school and having classmates that some of them were having two categories of classmates. Some that were very fast learners and very knowledgeable in many areas, especially in the English language, in reading, writing, and speaking, and those that didn't know how to do those things. And they've been in the school for a number of years. They've been in the school for a while. And the teacher has to continue teaching. The teacher has just 45 minutes to 1 hour to teach of students in the same class as their classmates. But he has limited time. And he can't go back to help those people that are not really fast in learning. He can't go back to maybe reiterate anything for them. And he can't stop the class to help them, because it's going to bring back those ones that are fast learners. So what does he do to balance, or what should he do to balance up teaching the two categories of learners? That was my question, sir.
Okay. It has always been that way. I don't think there is a perfect class. There's no perfect class in teaching. There's no perfect class. There's no single class with high flyers. A class must be a conglomeration of weak learners and learners that to a reasonable extent are doing perfectly well, and then some average learners. So it has always been like that. So I think it is the responsibility of the teacher to try as much as possible to bridge the gap, not to make it may not be with the intention of making the high flyers become average, or making the average students or learners become the same level now with the high flyers. But there must be a sense of balancing. So one of the responsibilities that could be done by the teacher is to ensure that the high flyers in the class take up responsibility. Like when I was practically in the system teaching GSS 1 to 3, one of the things I always do is to ensure that the high flyers take up responsibility in such a way that they are able to.
Hello, Mr. Bada. I don't think we can. Sorry, are you still with us? Okay, so before it comes up, you mentioned something about every class having those two categories of learners. I don't want to drag this for too long, but I can remember I've been at a school where all the excellent students, so sort of like the ones that are very good, or that are high achievers, so to say, they put them in one class, and they put the ones that are
giving 12.
Other class.
Yes,
Okay.
average learners. Yes, they are not. There was a language I heard Mr. Pupola using. Normal learners. If you are saying normal learners, does that mean we have abnormal? So what we may call them may be high flyers or average learners, and if they are quite poor, we special learners. Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes, don't mind me. I made use of your wrong term.
Okay. So these average learners will take up more responsibilities. Then high flyers their responsibility would be that they explain some terms after the teacher has done whatever it is he wants to do, and then you follow up. The teacher must follow up at time to ensure that these learners are doing what they are meant to do, and it must also come from the readability of the high flyer. Like the last experience I had as regards handwriting, a practical example now. There was a boy in JSS3 who was having a very, terrible handwriting. He couldn't even write legibly. So one of the things I did, or the most pronounced thing I did, was to call him out one day and then ask him who would he want to model after, whose handwriting would he want to model after in the class. And then he went round, he checked through notes, and then he came up with someone's note. So I told him to get handwriting notes from the store. He got it, and then I handed over the handwriting note to the boy whose handwriting has been mentioned as the best in class. So I told him every day he must write at least a sentence in the handwriting notes for the boy to copy up to 4 or 5 times, regardless of the time or how busy the boy is. So, and I was following up every day to ensure that this boy is doing it. So these are ways by which we can bridge this gap. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. I think this also answers the question. Mr. Olamide's take on it kind of balanced it to some extent. But when you started talking, you mentioned the class. Before there was a glitch. I didn't hear it for a while. So I started talking about my experience at a school where students that are high achievers, so to say, are put in a separate class from students that are considered low achievers. And they can call it grade 1A and grade 1B. And everyone in grade 1A are excellent. They are doing excellently well. They're very high achievers. They're doing really well. And what's it called? They have like competitions. They are all competing for the first position, second position, third position in one class. And the other class, when you go there, it's as if the teacher is teaching special students. And these students are not really special students, so to say. They are just maybe slow in learning. I don't know, is it wise, or was that a wise move or initiative that the school decides to put them together and work on? Maybe their reason is because they are trying to keep the pace of learning, should I call it equal, for the two classes, so that no one drags each other back. Because one class is filled with excellent students and the other class is filled with below average students. So is it that the school is trying to suppress or reduce the pace of unequal learning or something? I don't know if anybody gets my question. So is it
so if I understand the question,
yes,
you're saying a scenario where the school separates the high achievers from the low achievers.
Yes, sir.
And then separate them into two different classes. Yes. Is that it?
Yes, that's it, sir.
Okay, so I think it's very wrong, because the school is not creating room for differentiation. Differentiation should be part of teacher's methodology. Whatever methodology a teacher wants to use in class, he or she must consider differentiation. He must consider, because I started my answer to the first question by saying there can never be a perfect class. There can never be a class with students of the same IQ, students of the same knowledge as regards to a particular subject or so. So the school should ensure that teachers are also, practicing what they are taught in school, which is a reasonable aspect of, methodology called differentiation. So if you say A is high flyers, B is low learners, so you're saying the teacher shouldn't make use of differentiation. The teacher should just come to class with the mindset of teaching, high flyers or high graders, then go to B with the mindset of teaching low learners. So it will not make the teacher want to be as professional as he or she ought to be. Then secondly, I don't think we are also helping the low learners. We are not helping them, because once they see that there's no competition amongst them, there's no individuals they are looking up to in class, it makes them a bit relaxed. It makes them not having this healthy competitive spirit in class. So that is also from the aspect of the learners.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So the next question is not really similar, but it's like a follow-up to the first one, and it's on the fifth week topic, transforming education. Okay, Ms. Comfort has something to say. Please, Mike, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to add to what Mr. Bada said. I don't think that is a very good idea. I said something on the EL network about a few weeks ago. I can't remember. So I said, whenever I get into the class, the first thing I do is I rearrange them, because I know that they have this. In fact, let me use this as an example. In my school, in SS3B, there's a faction. Some people call themselves Gen Z. Some people call themselves I can't remember. Scholars. Some people call themselves scholars. So there's like a faction in that class, and I have noticed it from the first week of resumption. So whenever I step into that class, I make sure that. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, ma'am.
So I make sure that I rearrange them. They won't sit with their friends. So I pair them up. I pair the low achievers with the high achievers. Those ones I know that are very good. I pair them with the average students, because I wouldn't want a situation whereby because there was a time it almost resulted into a fight. Whenever I ask a question, they'll be like, okay, we the scholars, we want to answer. These ones, they are unable to answer. So I said, this will not happen in my class. So that move or that idea, I don't think is a good one, because number one, it will drop the self-esteem of those low achievers to zero. Believe me, their self-esteem will drop. I was telling someone about a few weeks ago how my performance in school during my kindergarten days. I was a slow learner, a slow writer, and I remember then there was this particular teacher that was always saying, you will remain in this class. She was always discouraging me, like, and yes, it was so bad that I used to be the last person to leave the whole school. I was a slow learner, I was a slow writer. But immediately I left that class and I was promoted to primary 1. Everything changed. The story changed, the narrative changed. I don't know what the teacher did. I don't know, but everything changed. So, to me, I don't think there should be a faction. There should be equity in everything we do, especially in a situation like this. So,
yeah, thank you very much, Mrs. Comfort. Equity and the teacher's approach to is very important. So since Mrs. Olukosun is here, the next question I'll be channeling to you, Ma. I'll channel it to you. It says your school introduces online learning platforms. I think you already in one of the the team-based discussion
Yes.
you explained the way you teach literature and English for your students and those that don't have phones and devices. So maybe you can reiterate on that today. So the question is, your school introduces online learning platforms, but some students lack access to devices. How do you address the digital divide?
Um, like Miss Olufunke said, I could remember. She said, when some of these students do not have access to phones or devices, you pair them up. Then I remember she introduced us to quizzes, and when I introduced these quizzes to my students, then I got to know that some of them don't have access to phones. So this is what I did. The laptops we have in the library and in the ICT, I tried to download these quizzes apps on the laptop. So whenever I give them an assignment, for those of them that do not have access to phones, access to any device at all, I'll tell them to come to the library for the assignment. So that is what's...
Yeah. Does anybody else have?
Yes. Can I quickly say?
Sure, you can go ahead, sir.
Okay. Yeah, a very brilliant suggestion from Miss Comfort. So personally, I just want to add that I think this is the best avenue to even reach out to the government, that or maybe private schools also that may want to introduce online learning platform, that we should not introduce without making the resources in place for the learners. Most times we hear and we preach that we want online learning, we want digital this or that. I think a school should not introduce online learning platform if they've not made availability to cater for at least half of the population. So thank God Miss Comfort School has a library that has working laptops. We have scenarios whereby that's not the case.
So can I talk?
Okay, it's a conversation. Yes.
Sure, Mrs. Comfort, you can go ahead.
Yes,
Mrs.
you're free
Comfort,
to.
yeah, you're free to talk.
Okay, I guess network. Okay, so as I was saying, then look in the area of the learners for senior secondary school level, I really don't know. But do we still have students in senior secondary school level who do not have access to phone?
Yes, we do. There are. When I was in secondary school 3, I didn't have an Android phone, and this issue, I don't think it is because some parents cannot afford it. Some parents just feel like it's going to be a distraction. So maybe unless you're able to convince them to get phones for their children, some parents can afford it but would not get it for their children until they have gained admission to universities. Like for some people, that's the criteria for getting a phone. Gain admission first, and I'll get you a phone. So that's what some parents do. So there are many senior secondary school students that don't have a phone. Actually, it's just that the ones we see very often have phones, or maybe in this generation.
Wow, really? Okay. Well, just to address that, I feel like the best thing is it still boils down to the cooperation between the school management and the parents, because if the school management wants the children to make use of it, there's a way whereby they can encourage the parent to get at least a small phone that can make use of WhatsApp and that can make use of Google Chrome. Get now. For students who do not have, honestly, they need to reach out to the parent to get that, because this age and time is just important.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Olamide. I also think no matter how, even if the school doesn't have the resources, I know there are some schools that try to like force their students to get digital devices and all of that, maybe so they can keep up with the status quo of secondary schools and all of that. But then, even if they don't have those, they don't have it in their school, they should still encourage the students to start learning how to use them because JAM is computerized, and yeah, many exams are getting computerized these days. So apart from using it to learn, they would also need it. They would also need to have knowledge and idea of these things because they would need it to write in examinations, and they would have to be very fast. So they would have to get very used to these things. So it's important that
Yeah,
students
yeah,
learn it.
and I think I must quickly apologize. I I was actually thinking within the scope of Lagos State when you first asked the question. So I just remember that yeah, there are some other states who will definitely get to, and students in senior secondary school don't have access to. I mean, they
Yeah.
don't. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Mr. Lukoton, you're back. You wanted to say something the other time. You can go ahead now, ma. Yeah, I think she's still having network glitches. So, over to the next topic, the one we had in week 6, valuing teachers' voices towards the new social contract for education. And Mrs. CJ handled the session, Mrs. Comfort. So, my question under this topic. Wait, before I ask my question, under valuing teachers' voices, does anybody have a question to ask or throw at the group? Under valuing teachers' voices, is there something you want to ask or something you want to share? Ask
Personally,
Okay, go on, sir.
no, I mean I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay, thank you, sir. So, I'll ask mine. Now, your school's administration, teachers' concerns about workload, how would you organize a collective response? Is the question clear? Solange, I think you should answer the question because Mrs. Comfort is, I don't think she's settled now.
Okay. Well, uh, this somehow gives a kind of hint into one of the topics that we will be treating in the next episode or so, which has to do with teachers' well-being, mental, managing stress and all that.
So, can you reiterate? I didn't hear that part. I think
Can you?
it got cut out.
Yes, I said we will definitely be looking at these in the nearest future in one of our episodes, which has to do with managing stress and all of that.
Okay.
But to address the question, you would use a keyword which is ignores. So that means the school administration, I don't know, possibly inhuman, wicked, or so, because you can't ignore teachers' concern about workload. That means they are aware, but they choose to ignore. You get that? So if we're going to organize a collective response, that means it has to be a deliberate and conscious response. Since they have made a deliberate and conscious effort to ignore as well. So what we do, or what I would do, is there's a staff room also where we sit with other teachers. You get now. First, we meet as a team, and please not being rebellious or anything. Oh, how is your workload? Do you think this? Oh, maybe out of 10 teachers, 3 is saying, oh, I think my workload is still okay, I'm not overburdened. 7 is saying, I'm dying of this and that. Yes. So with this, we can say we have a quorum, like a large number of people who are saying that yes, truly there's a concern for the workload. The next thing is to approach the VP admin, because there's a protocol to all of these things. Please, ma'am, we have this concern. You get. So if you notice that the VP admin chooses to ignore that, or maybe after raising the concern, say, "Oh, we'll look into it. We'll look into it." A week, 2 weeks, and all that, nothing is being done. Then you can proceed to discuss with the principal or whoever is next in line of authority. Yes, now. Then after that, I don't know if your question entails the fact that, yeah, maybe after you've approached the VP, and they still choose to ignore the teacher's concern about workload. I don't know. Are you seeing it from that angle, or are you presenting it from that angle?
Sure, yeah, you can. Yes, continue, sir.
Okay. So if it is from that angle, I would never encourage teachers to be rebellious at face of work. No. But at the same time, I would always encourage people to pay attention to their own well-being, because we've had scenarios whereby the teacher gets to slump and maybe die on the spot, or let's say hospitalized for some days, and all that. So before it gets to that level, it is expedient, it is important to speak out. I'm so sorry. I notice I'm having 32 periods. I'm having 34 periods. When I was coming in, I explained a bit of my health challenge, this and that. Possibly the teacher is asthmatic. Possibly the teacher has what's it called, ulcer. Let it be known that I would appreciate if this is reduced for period. Yes, this. So I think it's just about being bold enough to speak up for oneself. Because if you don't speak for yourself, when going back to the question you asked, ignores, the school administration ignores. So that is when they deliberately ignores the yes now. But I know if the school administration does not deliberately ignore, once it is raised, every sane human being will pay attention to that.
Okay, thank you for that attempt, Mr. Olamide. So what would you suggest in a situation where, although the school doesn't ignore the teachers, they are extremely understaffed, and apart from the workload, in fact, it's not even about the workload. Like you mentioned some teachers that might have health issues. The workload is actually going to be extreme too, because they are way understaffed. Like a teacher handling like three subjects for 3 different classes. It's also the classroom teacher, and in fact, I'm trying to create. You understand what I'm trying to say? A teacher that has more responsibility than he should have, or a school that should have 10 teachers, having 3 or 4 teachers handling what those 10 teachers should do. What would you advise? Like, what should the school do? For left to me, I think the school should close up.
Or what we should do is to work towards employing more. And we get now that's the obvious, thing to do at first.
They cannot afford it.
What do you say?
So I think they cannot afford to get more teachers, like at the moment.
If they cannot to get more teachers, I think that the next thing is to have a dialogue with teachers. You get now, because these human beings are not robots. I personally don't encourage any workplace whereby the person or a person is overloaded. One day it will tell. Either the person will break down. So from we are understaffed, before you know it, maybe if a school needs, let's say, 15 teachers to function well, and due to one thing or the other, they have 9 or say 10, and the school is got to recruit. If these 10 are still overworked, before you know it, 2 will break down this week, will not be able to come. So that means they are having it. Before you know it, the 8, another 2 will break up next week. The 2 that were absent last week will resume, then they are still left with 8. So all these things, there's always a backlog of whatever you tell to do. If it has a context.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's what I think about.
Yes. True. True. Okay. So before I move on to the next question, we have like 3 questions more to go, but the last 2 questions are in the same should I call them room? Yeah. So I'll put them together in a way and ask 2 instead of 3. So topic 7 is on financial literacy and skills identification. And yeah, that was Beyond the Classroom by Mr. Ganiyu Okoyemi. He's not here with us, but I'll just go ahead with the question. So you want to start a side business to supplement your income as a teacher. How would you balance teaching and entrepreneurship?
Okay. Fine. So to balance that, I feel it works differently. Private school educators, they can engage more in online entrepreneurship because private school appears to be close late yet now. But there are some certain things again that maybe the rules of the school, this and that, may not allow. Public school is closed earlier, so 2-3, so they can still run a shop whereby they employ maybe a sales rep to stand in gap while they are in school, you get now. And when they close, they can just go on.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'll just go to the next one. Under our teacher as a leader, teacher as a leader, the value system, teacher as a leader, global relevance, and teacher as a leader, oral and moral. So we already treated global relevance in the last review session. Today we'll be treating value system and oral and morals. So we'll be reviewing those 2 topics. Now, as a person of strong morals, moral values, moral values, you notice a colleague's unethical behavior or a behavior that contradicts school rules, and it contradicts your values as well. Question.
Yeah, can you cite an instance or an example of such behavior that contradicts?
Okay. Okay. Has or exhibits and it's against your moral values, or yes, and it also contradicts school etiquette. So how would you address the issue, especially if it's a senior colleague?
Yeah, can you give an example of behavior that is about? The line was written.
Yes, unethical behavior, rather. Is that what you mean? Like I should give an example, first an example of that kind of behavior?
Yes, is it that the person is cheating, stealing, molesting, just give an example.
No, I said towards a student. I think it's the general one, but I think it's reducing already. Harassment, physical and sexual harassment. Physical harassment in the sense that maybe the student doesn't concede to whatever you are suggesting, and you bully the student publicly in the class, bully the student out of the class, do not give her the deserved marks the marks she deserves. Some maybe a very good student that you under any of the issues, so you just treat her anyhow. So maybe even physically assault her, beat her, or something outside school, letting her not to report to anybody, and maybe you find suddenly, or maybe you're walking by an enclosed place in school and you overhear the discussion, and you can hear that they're having a scuffle or something, and then you walk into it. So how do you address the situation? The student is there, the teacher is there, and you met them both in the scuffle. How do you address it?
Well, the thing there is, unethical behavior. That was I asked kind of instance. There are some that are, red flags. There's no justification for it, sexual assault or abuse or whatever it may be. You notice that I don't want to care what the level of the person may be. Once you notice that there are the right measures, you report to the higher authority. You don't allow sin to thrive in secrecy. That's not the time to start admonishing here and there. Like you get now, this person is actually taking advantage. But in the situation of bullying, I really don't. Some certain things are unprofessional. I think that's what you may term it as. Some certain behaviors.
I didn't get what you said, sir.
Hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. So I said some certain things are more or less maybe unprofessional, quote unquote. You get now, compared to some certain behaviors that you may say contradict values. You get now. So things that are a bit unprofessional, and you notice it from higher colleagues.
I think one part of your speech was cut out. Can you?
Okay, well, summarize it. I feel like everything has to do with context. You get now. First, if there is an higher personnel or someone who is higher in rank than me, flogging and all that, there's that room to approach. Oh, what did this student do? Oh, is this and that? You can, flogging actually is not even, it has been prohibited. So there is.
So far.
What do you say?
Mr. Alamidi, I don't think anything you said came out. Just the few seconds that just came out.
Oh,
yeah, I didn't hear. I don't know. It's coming on, and I think there's a glitch or something.
Oh, is it better now, please?
Yes, it's better now.
Okay, so I was saying that in this situation, it has to do with the context. Scenario you get now. Is it a thing of victimization, like the teacher is just trying to victimize? The teacher is just trying to victimize. You can actually let the teacher know that.
So I'll give you a scenario, maybe one part victimization and another part maybe sexual assault that nobody knows about.
About sexual assault and all that.
Yes.
You just have to go to the higher authority straight up. This.
I'm sorry to put you in, sir. There's a way teachers in Nigerian schools, beating is not, flogging with cane is not totally prohibited. But there are some things, sometimes that the student is not guilty, but because you have a grudge with the students beforehand, maybe the student didn't concede to something that you wanted he or she to do, that also contradicted that student's ethical values. So you decide to victimize the students, or publicly in front of our classmates, and when our classmates are not there, and you threaten her, and a fellow teacher finds out. Apart from being unprofessional, I think it's also unethical. In a way.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And that's why most governments, state governments in Nigeria, are already encouraging teachers to undergo some trainings. I think there's what we call the Save Child Policy or Safe Keeping of Child Policy program or project. That's a course for teachers to undergo. And also, students, learners are being encouraged by the state government to have a platform. There's a platform created for them to have their opinions. You get what I'm saying now? So,
yes.
But caning, use of cane is actually prohibited.
Already. So it's prohibited. Some schools that still do it though. I'm not totally prohibited, because I know most secondary schools I know. Not all secondary schools. There are some schools, a few schools that are up and coming now that prohibits use of cane in their schools. But those ones that have been there for years, they cannot take out that cane from the equation. It's a constant.
Back it up with the scripture. Spare the rod and spoil the child. That kind of thing.
Exactly. So yeah. Okay, I think that was a good take though. I would have loved us to actually still talk more. And there were lots of topics that I would have wanted us to dive more into, especially the bridging the gap aspects, but we're short on time. Thank you for committing to being present, sir. And thanks to everyone else that was here, but I've left for one reason or the other. I can assure you that it wasn't a waste of time. Your time wasn't wasted.
Yeah, network seems to be a big
Wasted. Yeah, I'm grateful that you were available for today's review. I think this is the end of the past previous reviews on the topics that we've had, our previous theme-based discussion. We were able to cover everything. So thank you for making this possible, and thank you for joining the discussion. Yeah, I've come to the end of today's theme-based discussion. Have a lovely night.